popped up so I just sent you quite a few shorts, and then I have the last 2 episodes as well.
Okay.
That I'll have sent over to you. Here we go.
Yeah. This doesn't end well unless it ends. Can't just report the fucking obvious.
I don't care what a critic got to say, I got them picking up the pieces. That mean you really playing with your life, I'm about to come and
Just
run
a
it all back. I'm
motherfucking
the
jump.
new era, about to
Just
snap
go.
back. You ain't fitting.
You're live.
I can't hear anything.
Oh,
In my microphone, I can't hear sound. I got nothing.
should be good there.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Beautiful. Sorry about that.
So the opening already
Yeah,
played?
we are already live. Yeah. What a way to start the show on a Friday morning.
Yes, yes, it is. This is the Outlaw Apostle Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Neff. I'm the fucking guy and the other fucking guy in the room ready to get us rolling here on this Friday morning is Leo. Leo, good morning.
Good morning, Troy. How you doing today, man?
I'm doing good, man. Christmas is coming fast, man.
It is right around the corner. Man, and the temperature's reflecting it too, honestly. Oh my God, it is getting cold out
Oh
here.
my God, it's in the low 50s.
It is freezing.
It's actually supposed to, I think, get to 70 or 71 today for the next few days.
Really?
Yeah, it's supposed to be. So, and then we drop back
Drop
down
all the way
to
down.
the low mid 60s as our high. It's all right.
I'm here for it. I'm here for
Like
it.
I get to wear these warmer clothes for 2.5 months, or about that. Because last year or this year, it actually seemed like first week of April we were at summer, and I love that, man. I mean, we used to pretend that summer was on its way in Ohio in April, and it'd still be rainy and not real nice, and then May, and you're pretending again, and then hopefully by June, so you get 2.5 months of summer.
A little bit of it.
Yeah, no, I'm good with the trade, man. I'm good with the trade. So yeah, busy weekend coming up. Tonight's the Shane Gillis concert, so
nice.
Looking forward to that.
Oh,
Yeah, and tomorrow we're taking friends second trip to at least for Dawn and I, second trip. It'll be their first time to Catch in Scottsdale, which is the hardest restaurant to get in right now. And so we'll be enjoying dinner there. And then Sunday we'll be going watching the Cardinals disappoint us.
Oh, yeah. Who are they playing against this time around?
I don't even know. I don't even look. It's just the game last night was pretty good, though. The Thursday night game with the Lions and the Cowboys. Both teams, are kind of on that bubble, and they both needed to win. And the Lions, they left it all out there, man. They left it all out there. And there was Lamb took hit the
44,
ground.
wow.
Yeah. Well, it was closer than that most of the time. It was close. And Lamb took a hit. It wasn't the other player's fault. It's just the way he hit the ground, and his head just smacked it, and you just knew instantly. I think it even knocked him out for 3 or 4 seconds.
Really?
Like out. Like he just laid there like out. Like, yeah, that kind of thing. Yeah, it did not look good. So, he'll probably maybe miss a week. Maybe might miss the next game. And then they highlighted George Pickens, and I've been kind of complaining a little bit, that we got rid of George Pickens. But here's what the real truth is: the Steelers made the right choice in getting rid of George Pickens, and I don't know why the Steelers have this issue, mostly with wide receivers, but occasionally running backs, where we just get these fucking head cases. I mean, this has happened several times now, where we get these really great wide receivers that just turn into head cases. And Antonio Brown is another one, he was the best of them all that we've had, and he turned into a head case. Well, my whole thing is that we needed a second wide receiver last year. So we replaced Pickens with DK Metcalf. And that's a solid replacement. That's, maybe even a slight upgrade, because just more mature. He's just more mature. Talent-wise, but you can't count on the talent of Pickens because like last night, dude, there was play after play. And hats off to whatever announcer after the game pointed it out and took him to task for it, because players don't really like when they're called out like that, especially by other former players, that he was just taking plays off, man. He was just jogging. He was barely going through the motions of his route. And at that point in the game, he was it. Like, he was the man. CeeDee Lamb was gone, But I've said, like I said, Pittsburgh needed a second one. Well, we needed a second wide receiver last year, at least a legit number 2, or like some of those teams, like a Cincinnati Bengals, they have a legit 1A and 1B, that they're that good. But you got to have that second one. And we just got a bunch of tight ends. Now we have some decent tight ends, but it looks like we got this big goal line offense that we start at our 20 and go down the field with. It's just horrible. The offensive, and people are calling for Tomlin's head. And I'm off the Tomlin bandwagon of, protecting him and saying, look, what are we going to do? The guy is a Hall of Fame coach. How do you fire a Hall of Fame coach? And who are you going to get to replace him? But at this point, we got to do something different because shit's not working. And he's had a great career in Pittsburgh. I don't think he would be done coaching. He could easily go somewhere else. People would love to have him. But we need to do something else because the responsibility falls on him as far as picking the coordinators and stuff. And then, it also falls on management that we've done some good things acquiring some players and keeping our own, but we got the highest paid defense that's not playing like even a top 5 defense right now. And same thing with there. We get rid of Minkah Fitzpatrick, send him back to the team that we got him from, and take Jalen Ramsey. It was like more of an equal trade. Even though they don't play the exact same position, they're both, defensive backs, safety versus cornerback kind of thing. But still, it didn't add another element to the team. And the same thing on offense that we just, and the whole idea, what we were told as fans is we want to win now, which is why we want to go after Aaron Rodgers. And they dicked around with that, and Aaron Rodgers came in. The truth is, Aaron Rodgers has done as good as you could expect. And maybe he didn't do that the last couple of years for the Jets. Well, one, injury, very first game. And then the second year, it was just a disaster. Well, he hasn't been a disaster for us. He's been solid. It's the rest of the shit that they got going on that's just not been good at all. And I think the Lions have been affected, but I think they have a great head coach. But losing their offensive and defensive coordinators, you could tell that, the team is struggling a little bit more this year than last year. They've had some injuries, but they had a bunch of injuries last year. And they're just on the bubble. But the offensive and defensive coordinators in the NFL, it matters. It matters. And the Steelers, they're just not there. It's disappointing. to be 6-6 when, the season just played out for us in such a way with the problems that the Bengals have had and that the Ravens have had and with injuries and stuff. We had a chance to be like, we should be 3 games ahead of everybody right now and in first place and controlling our own destiny. And well, we're driving our destiny right into the ground right now. So that's how I feel about my Pittsburgh Steelers. But it was a good game last night. I mean, the Cowboys don't, their chances of getting into the playoff, because I think they're 7-6 now, because I believe they were 7-4 or 7-5. So maybe they're 7-6 now. Is that what they are?
Lions are 8-5. Cowboys are 6-6-1.
6-6. And 6-6-1 is not great.
Not for week 14 of 18, for
right.
Sure.
And they could have been 7-5-1. And, standing a better chance. But they are playing, at least better than they did last year. And but they were chasing Dak all the fuck around, man. That dude was running for his life last night. But it was an enjoyable game for sure. And it was good to see that the Lions are still right there. Because the old Lions would, in the same position, would never bounce back like they just did after a loss. They would just snowball out of control, kind of like the Cardinals do now, to be honest. So, yeah, so we're going to the Cardinals game on Sunday, and a lot of college football on Saturday as far as conference championships and kind of seeing where the chips are going to fall for the final polling and, what the committee is going to do and who's going to be in and who's going to be out. That'll be interesting. We'll all be paying attention to that if you love sports, if you love college football. And I do. It's just fun, and Dawn and I enjoy it very much together. So that's our busy weekend. And today, the big story that I want to talk about, and I kind of have avoided it, but not necessarily on purpose. But at this point, it's becoming such a flashpoint that I wanted to throw my 2 cents in. And it's all over these Venezuelan drug boats. I want to know why it doesn't seem to be an issue to bomb a drug boat once. But if there are any survivors, because the idea is to kill who's on the drug boat and also blow up the drugs. That seems to be the goal. And so if you have survivors and maybe even some surviving bundles of cocaine or fentanyl or whatever they have in the boat, why is a second strike bad? Because that's what happened. That's what they're focused on right now, is a boat strike in early September when they first started doing these, because that's when they first started doing these, was early December. I think maybe even September 2nd. So for some reason that date sticks in my head, but something like that. And so not long after it started, I don't know if it was the second or third strike, but apparently there were 2 survivors and another hit was ordered by the military person who was in charge. And it's kind of fallen on Hegseth and the president, but it shouldn't fall on anybody. I want to know, why is that a bad thing to do that? See, yeah. That was the latest one. That was September 5th that happened. But that's like I said, they had just started doing these strikes. And I just want to know, why is it okay to kill him the first time, but not okay to kill him with a second attempt? I mean, is there a thing about that? And this isn't, there's always this argument about Geneva Convention, the laws governing fighting. And that always kind of, I shake my head at too, because the bad guys don't follow the rules. And maybe the good guys don't follow the rules sometimes too.
So what's the point of rules?
Right. Yeah. I mean, but war is war. War is ugly. War is shit. And it used to be, from the beginning of time, you just, yes, kings would send out their armies to fight each other, but there were also groups that would just go through and burn towns, that would take prisoners, that would take women as prisoners, or they'd kill them, or they'd rape them, or do all of that, right? They would just wipe out the whole village. That was a thing. And it's pretty much been that way for, I don't know, the entirety of man until, I don't know, sometime the middle of last, it's probably 70 now, 70, 75 years ago now, that all of a sudden, because in World War II, I'm pretty positive that Germany bombed the shit out of London. They weren't just striking targets that were military targets. They were taking people out, right? And what did we do? We dropped a fucking nuclear bomb, 2 of them, okay? Those weren't just military targets. It wiped out civilians. And it also it was done in such a way that it was, you don't want to continue this. We did it once. We did it twice and showed you we'd do it again. You might want to surrender, or you may not exist. Your people may be gone. And they surrendered, saving, didn't save their lives, but saved thousands and thousands of potential losses that Americans could have had after that point. So that was the whole reasoning behind it. But we just have these different rules of engagement. But that is for people who are fighting for their specific country and their military. There's a different set of rules when you're talking about terrorists, because they don't dress, they don't all dress alike. They don't all have specific uniforms. And it's just, and they're not necessarily managed by the government in the area that they're in. They can just, they're just their own animal. And we have that. And so we've decided, I don't know if this is the only reason. I think, here's what I honestly think. From what I understand now, I think that Donald Trump, our president, is legitimately going after these people for the purpose of the drugs, one. But I also think there's another motive. But the best motive to sell to the public is the motive about the drugs. And it seems that from what we've learned here recently, that the second potential motive could have to do with voting machines, and that they were trying to rig the election. And Elon Musk found the computers, or where the computers were that were driving all of this, and was able to interfere with them in such a way that they weren't able to follow through with rigging the election. So when Democrats tell people now that, the Republicans rigged the 24 election, I guess what they really mean is, you stopped us from rigging it so you could win. Which, fine. But I think there is some of that in the background, and it's related to those Dominion machines and I guess Smartmatic. I mean, it's all the average person. It's hard for me to keep up with all this shit. The average person, I don't know how you do it. I really, really don't. Which is why what I try to do is do as much as I can to stay abreast of things that are going on. I try not to let it control my life. And then I try to find other people that I trust that I can get stuff from that I believe have vetted the information well to at least help me along the path a little bit faster or give me a hole to, rabbit hole to go down and an idea. That's what I try to do because that's, really what I do in my business as well. Everybody doesn't have time to study this or that peptide or that kind of thing. And it's great if you want to do that, but I'm the main source for my clients. They come to me, I help them out. I tell them I've done the work because it's what I do full time. It's what I do full time. So I can help them and direct them, and then they can, find out whatever they want to find out for themselves based on whatever their interest is. So same thing with this news and what's going on in the country. I think it really matters because I really don't like, and I wouldn't like it either way. Some Republicans, not like what the Democrats are doing today, but, Obama used drones to make a bunch of strikes. And he didn't get authorization from Congress to do it. And that's a lot like this situation. But whether it's Republicans or whether it's now the Democrats criticizing this stuff, I think we need to be very careful. Okay, I'm not saying you shouldn't ask questions and stuff, but it doesn't seem to me that that's what they're doing. It's that and the reason that is because anything this president does, anything, it does not matter what it is, they oppose it. And if they didn't do that, I think it would be a little easier to listen to them, okay? That it would be interesting to listen to them, right? And talk about, this is what we see in this, and not just criticize every single thing because you're putting the United States in a bad spot. I think it's very dangerous for any American, all right, or any type of senator, especially, or congressman, to label your president as a war criminal. Okay? That's for other countries, our enemies, to do. That's really not for us to do. When we do that, I think that's really not good. It's just not. We need to be united, at least in some regards, to this kind of stuff. But they're just looking for, anyway, now this is going to be the way, their latest attempt, because the whole Epstein thing hasn't worked. Now this is going to be what the Democrats use to try to impeach the president. Well, look, here's the bottom line on this. The president is not going to get impeached, period. And the only way that he gets impeached is if the Democrats take control of the House next year. So we got a whole year. And then for the impeachment, they can impeach him. They can have a ruckus. They can have a show. But that show then has to go to the Senate. And so they would have to control both the House and the Senate to get him out. Just controlling the House and impeach him again. And this country doesn't want another impeachment. It does not. And I can tell you, I speak for probably 99% of the conservatives, that if you go down that road to try to impeach the president, you are going to, if that doesn't trigger a civil war, I don't know whatever would. Because we're just fed up with that. Fed up with being just on over and over and over again, having people just attack every single thing every single day. It's just dumb. It's not a good look at all. And then nothing is being done for the American people. You can talk about affordability, but neither side is actually doing anything for affordability. Because one side is, Well, both sides are trying to paint each other as the worst possible people. And they really believe it. And honestly, I really believe some of them are the worst people that I've ever seen or met, or just the things that people say and do. And maybe that's just me being skewed because of X and, on the old Twitter, that it's just, you have to be careful with Twitter because that's a whole different universe. I've mentioned that many, many times, right? But I don't know, man. It just does not seem to me to be a good thing to go after your own president in this way. It just, some things you just don't do. You can still talk about, wanting oversight or wanting information, but the accusations should be dialed back a little bit until you actually have, real evidence. And the evidence seems to be that in at least in one regard, it's working. Fewer and fewer boats are out there. That this is not a great way for them to move drugs right now. And again, maybe the president has some other motives in line with this. I'm really not big into, regime change in other countries. I wish we'd kind of stay out of that shit. But it seems like that's what's going to happen. I think, Trump is trying to make that happen without deploying our military in such a way that they would be required to do it, and be doing what he's doing with these bombings and threats of these boats, and just get the guy to agree to leave the country and go exile someplace and take some money with him and just go, There was a time when Venezuela was a thriving country. This guy has buried it. But that's, to me, is that really our problem? Is it really our problem? Oil, okay. But I think we have enough oil, enough other places if we want to, that even though they have a great oil reserve, that we really have shown that we don't need them. Just like we don't need Iranian oil. It's great if it's out there, but oil prices are so low right now. Man, it's a tough business. It's not really the great business that you think it is right now, because their profit margin is razor thin. And they've done a great job over the last 15, even 20 years with the fracking and the things they've done and the new technologies and making it cheaper to get that oil out of the ground. Man, they've done a great job. The fact that we can even have gasoline at, $3 to $3.50. I paid $3.61 yesterday, but I always get the 91 premium. So that's going to be more. But otherwise, I could have paid $3. That's just, I just look over the gas prices of my lifetime, okay? And then when you consider that the biggest increases in the cost of oil has been states adding taxes on it and increasing those taxes over and over and over again. Anytime we make some benefit that makes gas cheaper, well, they love to tack a little more tax on that. And they do. So I just don't know what the whole purpose is of coming at the president the way they are, other than, well, they hate the president, and they also hate Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of the Department of War. They've always hated him from the very beginning. They tried to take him out, and they're continuing to target him. They're continuing to target the ones that they didn't like that got voted in anyways. Well, every president has the right to pick his own people. And if they're really terrible, then then the people are going to vote against them. And it used to be, you used to have 60 votes. You don't have to have 60 votes anymore. And the reason for that is Democrats. And so don't be mad that you changed the rules and the Republicans are using the rules that you set to do things that you don't like. Don't set those rules. And this was interesting. This is what I love about the internet is that people have an enormous ability now. And with the help of AI, the ability to search and find things is 100 times faster than it was. Maybe 1,000 times faster, right? Where people can go through this. Because this was a video I saw that somebody found, a video clip of Biden talking about just this whole thing about narco terrorists. And I think it's worth a listen to. This was when he was actually of sound mind, when he was still a douchebag, but, you know, he was at least of sound mind. Go ahead and play it.
Let's go after the drug lords where they live with an international strike force. There must be no safe haven for these narco terrorists, and they must know it.
That was 1989.
Let's go after the drug.
89.
89. That he said that. Yeah. And they think they can say these things, you know, and back then they could say that and get away with it 5 years later and deny they said it, you know, because who's going to find that back in the early 90s? How are you going to find that? It's brutal, man. It was just brutal. But, you know, they have found it. And there's stuff like that all over the place now where, you know, and I don't know, would I love to hear more of that? Yes, I'd love to hear more of that clip, but that clip doesn't seem to be taken out of context in any way where you're like, no, it just doesn't do that. I'd just like to know more about what he had to say about that. And other than, he said international. Well, look, is there anybody believes, I mean, we believe that other governments, like in Mexico, right, are influenced by the drug cartels. And some of them are even supported by the drug cartels, right?
Oh, yeah.
Right? So why would people not want to believe that there are politicians here that benefit the same way from drug trafficking and the cartels, that our politicians, that there's at least some that are involved in benefiting from that, or running guns, or sex trafficking, just like other countries are, just like Mexico? You're telling me that Americans are above that? The fuck we are. You know, that would just make no sense at all. We're just better? No, we're not. There are scumbag people that's what they're okay with that. You know, if they wanted to do away with paper money, they would have really done it already. And there's the biggest reason I can come up with of why we don't do away with paper money is drugs. It's the number one reason. I mean, really, Americans can't even use a Venmo or Zelle account, for God's sakes. You think they're going to be able to use a Bitcoin account to buy their 8-ball? Get the fuck out of here. No, they need cash. They need cash. And these people are benefiting. They want it to continue. If we didn't want it to continue, then what was Afghanistan all about? Why didn't they have one product there, right? Poppy seeds. Poppy. That's it. It's all they're good for. And that was brought here to this country, and we allowed and facilitated and helped that happen. And I'm sure there are some Americans that made millions and millions and tens of millions of dollars in that area and in that trade, getting paid off. Because if we wanted to take that shit out, we had the military capability to take it out. we were at war with that country, who is going to bitch about us taking that out? The only people that would bitch about us taking that out are the people that are Americans, that were involved, that were getting money out of that operation. I can't think of any other reason. But we didn't do it. We pretend we're against this shit. And some of us, like me, we really are. And we want to believe our government really is against this. And that they really do want to protect the American people. And it seems that they do just enough to make it look really good when they could destroy the whole thing, and they don't. It still lives on and on. Because that clip, 1989, like, you don't remember this, Leo, but, you know, there used to be commercials on TV, like with eggs. I don't know if they ever showed them to you in school, like where it would be like you'd have this egg and this is your brain, and then they'd crack it and scramble it. This is your brain on drugs.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, they did. They were showing you something from the past, and that was the 80s. That was, you know, Nancy Reagan and the war on drugs, and Nancy Reagan saying, just say no. That was a thing. Just say no. And you know what? It didn't work. And that's over that's about 50 years now. From that time till now is about 50 years. 50. Fuck, dude. I mean, I'm just I get people that remind me all the time how old I am. It's so funny when people attack me over my age. And I'm thinking, you know, your goal is to get older too, isn't it? Or you just want to have another couple good years and die at 38? What's your plan, dude? Do you want to be relevant when you're, 57 years old? Well, I do. I'm not dead yet. I'm not giving up. I'm not turning, shit over to the younger generation yet. They ain't fucking ready. And even so, I just want to stay involved, and I still want to be relevant in helping others and contributing. I just can't imagine not. It may not always be the same way. I've done it multiple different ways in my lifetime now, and I'm, if I live as long as I'd like to, which is about 95, it might change and be a couple other ways, but I'm still going to keep going. So what the fuck ever about my age, but it does really put it, like, when I think about it, like, wow, it's been that fucking long. Yeah. It's been that fucking long, man. It has. And so, there's something to be said for life experience, man. You cannot have wisdom without experience. And, I think it's a combination of knowledge and experience is where wisdom comes out of. And you need both. And there's a lot of people that just want to thrive or, pretend that they know everything based on just what they've read and no real world experience. You cannot, should never devalue real world experience. In fact, I'll take it over anything. To me, that would be my 1A. And, knowledge would be my 1B. Experience over all others. But it just seems I've seen this show before. Same with immigration. We've seen this immigration show from going back to the 80s. We had the same thing under Reagan. And the thing about Reagan, what he did sometimes, the mistake that he made, was that he'd get the other side to agree, but some of the details weren't implemented right away. They just said, hey, we're going to do this. And then after we get that part done, then we'll implement this. Is that good? We're going to do it. And then they would do that. They would do the first part, but then the second part wouldn't get done. Yeah, we're going to lower taxes, and then we're going to cut expenses, and then they don't cut expenses. That's why I've, in what I've tried to teach or share with people here on the show is that's the one thing we've never done. We've never tried to get out of this mess. We've never both cut taxes and cut expenses at the same time. And President Trump has cut taxes again. Reagan did it. Kennedy did it. And it was all good for our economies. But the one thing they didn't do in all of those times is also cut spending. Man, if we were able to cut spending back to 2020 levels, and with the way that the tax code is now, we would blow other countries out of the water, man. We would actually make real progress on, well, first of all, we wouldn't have a deficit, so we wouldn't be contributing to the debt every year, and then we'd actually have some extra money to actually pay down on the debt. Because at some point, it's not going to work anymore. And we used to have gold to back that all up. We don't have that anymore. We have the government's promise. And the United States government promise is as good as any promise in the world until it's not. Until they default. Until they say, yeah, you bought our bonds, which is debt, and we pay interest, and we're not going to be able to pay you that interest. In fact, we may not even be able to pay your money back on that bond at all. And then everything collapses from there. That's why, personally, I think, that Bitcoin could be something that helps get us out of this. That actually would be similar to what gold used to be for us. And better because you just can't walk around with a bunch of gold bars in your pocket, where the Bitcoin, there's real value, real backing of it. It's limited in how much of it can be produced and all that. And you didn't miss the boat on Bitcoin, people. You didn't, because it's not been fully adopted yet. So, one of the things that I want to do, like for my new grandbaby, Baby Q, is I want to set up an account for Baby Q to have some Bitcoin. Not the S&P 500. My second choice is actually gold, but the Bitcoin, and then we get $5,000-$10,000 in that account, and what that's going to be when that child is 20, dude. I mean, look at Apple. Go back to when Apple first started, and if you missed when Apple first went public, and let's say you invested 15 years later, and until now, the amount of money that you could have made in Apple, just by getting in on year 15, you'd be a rich motherfucker. Okay, even with a modest investment, you would have a lot. Well, why don't I have it? Because you know what? I had no one to teach me. I had no one. The schools don't do it. Most of our parents, they're confused as fuck about it. Like I said, they can't even use fucking Venmo, for God's sakes. How are they going to do that? So that's my financial advice for today. You still haven't missed on Bitcoin at all. So try to do something there. All right. Yeah, the government. Let's head on. we're going to go to our other topic. We're going to go back to Ozempic, which we talked about. Excuse me. We talked about earlier this week, and the, Ozempic 2.0 and them coming up with orals that are not going to be as effective. So I don't really understand why if you're going to do it, why you want to use the most effective thing. But I'm really over, and this is something I've done since I've been involved in peptides, is I've been pushing back now for several years against this really ignorant messaging that people are sending out that, these reporters don't know. They're journalists. They don't know. They don't, they don't know. And I've seen this stuff work firsthand. And I really hate when people shit on something that is good, that is generally good for a majority of people that have that issue. So people that are overweight, these drugs are beneficial to the majority of those people and could definitely help them. The problem isn't the drug. I've tried to point out over and over again, the problem is that doctors are not giving their patients the proper instructions. They're not focused on their nutrition. They're not focused on the exercising they do, the resistance training that they need to do. And they just tell them to increase these doses, and it works for some people and not others. Man, because here's the problem. You have some people that the starting dose of some of these is too high for them. And so for the people that have these side effects show up right away, it's really dose related and it needs to be adjusted. And then what happens is, because they're taking this higher dose and then they get these side effects that are not comfortable, they end up just quitting. And so then the doctor might prescribe a different one or something else, instead of trying to solve the real problem, instead of just switching. And I get that. I get it with clients too. Clients that are having success with semaglutide wanting to switch to retatrutide. Like, why? We're doing good with this. And as far as cost effectiveness goes too, you're getting results, and it's cheaper doing what we're doing than if you want to switch. And I'm not about money in a way that I'll just, go, okay. No, I want that long-term relationship with the client and show that I care. And then that also takes follow-up too, on both sides, from the client and myself. I make myself available, and I tell them, I don't have time to just message y'all back. But if you take a minute to message me, you will always get a response, and they do. And if we need to do a phone call because it's just too much to text, when are you available? Okay, you're ready now? Okay, let's do it. We'll bust it out in 5 minutes instead of texting for 30. Okay? But it does matter. I wish people focused more, instead of bad-mouthing the drug, which they don't understand and don't know shit about, instead of painting a bad picture of it, would focus on how it's being presented to the potential patient and how is it being followed up on. All right. And so then I saw this article. This is from Vox. The headline: people taking Ozempic are losing muscle mass and it's freaking them out. Yes, there is a downside to GLP-1 drugs if you aren't careful. It's the kind of headline that gets people to read it, right? Oh, we don't get to see the article? Well, okay. Yeah, I'm not paying for a Vox subscription. Sometimes you can get around that, and other times you can't. But anyways, so here's the deal. The headline is enough for me, simply because it was focused on losing muscle. If you do a diet, any diet, you're taking no drugs, you just are seeing a nutritionist, or you're reading on a particular diet, and whether it's keto or South Beach or whatever diet it is that you choose, and you could choose Weight Watchers, doesn't matter, right? If you stick to those diets, you're probably gonna lose weight. The number one factor is somebody sticking to whatever they do and being committed to it and following through with it. Okay. But if you're doing that diet and you don't make sure that as a part of that you're getting the amount of protein that you need, if you don't focus on that, no matter which diet you choose, and you don't take in enough protein, and then you're not a gym rat, and you don't have to be, but you really don't like resistance training, so you don't do any. Maybe you walk, but there's people who won't even do that. And you will lose weight, but you will also lose muscle. And that's without any drugs whatsoever. Now, if you add in drugs that curb your appetite, and now you're eating less, but what you're eating less of is everything, including less protein, and you're continuing to eat junk, and you're not working out, you are going to lose weight. And I've seen people lose weight really, really fast on these GLP-1s too. Not my clients most of the time, because I advise against that it just can be too fast. Somebody dropping 20 pounds in 2 weeks, way, way too fast. Okay. It should be about 1% of your total body weight a week is the rough number. And you want to lose fat, not muscle. So you need to track both of those things. And you need to track your protein. You need to go and do resistance training, 30 to 40 minutes at the gym or at home. You can get bands. Okay, bands are easy to use. And there's enough videos out there between the bands and also doing body weight that you can do that, and you can do that at home. Now, you might want to do a little bit more of it, but you definitely, if you do 30 to 40 minutes of it a couple times a week, at least 2, you are not going to lose muscle. Period. With the drugs or without the drugs. So, again, but it's relating that information. And so there are people, I do believe the story. I do believe there are people that are absolutely having this happen to them where they are losing muscle. I absolutely believe it. But I believe it's happening because they're not getting the right instructions from the doctor or the clinic. And how often do you get to text your doctor at 9:30 at night and get a response? How about on Saturday mornings? How does he feel about that? That's literally what I do. And I answer them. And I just did that on my way here this morning. That I went over with somebody who started at the end of October, like October 24th. So we're like 6 weeks in, and we've made some adjustments with how frequently they took it. And now this morning, we're going to increase the dose. And we've had contact 3, maybe 4 times since they started, because she does a fairly decent job of keeping me up to date. Because the more they message me and keep me up to date, if they message me once a week, the more I can help them through the changes and hold them to the line of, and I can remind them about the protein. Yeah, I'm trying to, are you really tracking it? No, I haven't written it down. Okay, well, let's start that. How about we do that? I'm only telling you the minimum amount of things that you need to do. And I'm trying to make it as easy as possible for you to do this and stick with it and have that success. Because everybody does not have that discipline that my girlfriend Dawn has, or the discipline that I have in doing this. Okay, there's a reason the 1% is the 1%. The 1% of the 1% because we're willing to do shit the 99% aren't fucking willing to do. But you can be in that 10, 20%. You can. Everybody can. Everybody can. You can. And these help you do that. And I want to see better health for all Americans. So instead of shitting on something you don't know, I wish people would just stop. I wish they would just stop. Why are you so against your friend getting healthier? Is it because you're not? Because you won't even take that little bit of help? And that's what it is. It's help. It's not a magic pill. It's not a magic shot. It's not a cure-all. It still takes work. And again, if you do it without work, if you just do it where you're going to lose weight, but you're not changing your diet and you're not exercising, if you don't make the lifestyle change, it can still work as far as losing weight. But you're not going to like the results because you are going to lose a lot of muscle. You're going to get a lot of hanging skin and you're still not going to be comfortable. And I've literally watched and seen and sat down with someone and I was shocked at what they were eating. Just shocked. Because they had lost, a pretty good amount of weight with it. And what they were eating, and they basically told me that's how they eat. They still eat like shit. Okay, well, you lost the weight. It did work. But that's not really the result that you want. Because there was nothing attractive about that. Nothing at all. So it's that and the testosterone that I'm just constantly pushing back. And, if it was in person, it would be an all-out brawl sometimes. So it's basically like an internet brawl because I just fight against that stuff. I push back. I'm just passionate about it. I just am. And, maybe it's not worth my time, but I'm not doing it to just attack the other person. I'm doing it so that there might be a person reading it that gets the idea of it is okay. It is okay to ask for help. It is okay to use this drug. You just need to do it right. Instead of being scared off because here they're friends with this person and this person posted it and they're against it. And that influences, and it does influence people. Look, people care. A lot of people care what other people think. And that's the hardest thing that we have to deal with in our whole life is caring what other people think. It stops people from making business decisions, moves, where they want to live. It stops people from lifestyle changes because this or that family member says this about it or thinks that about it. And they're not strong enough to push against it and just do what they want to do, what their gut tells them to do. And that's just huge. It just is. So I guess that's my that's my stuff for today. It's two things. It was, why are we worried about a second strike? If the first strike was okay to do, and I think it is, then the second strike is okay. And if there is an alternative, if there's a second motive, and I kind of believe that there is, that's okay too. Because the first motive is good as well. It's just the better one to sell to the public. But we shouldn't be hanging our presidents out, whether they're Republicans or Democrats, attacking them in such a way that to have the world turn against us. And this idea that you think that everybody hates the United States now, that's not real. People actually do like the fact that somebody has stepped up and been a leader. And labeling that leader, because they actually do lead, as an authoritarian is just wrong, because you're only doing it for political gain. You're not doing it out of the best interest of the country. And we know that you're not, and that's why you're not winning. So that was my message on that today. And the other is, do your thing. You know, if you're interested in using the GLP-1s, by all means, find out about it. See if you're a candidate for it. And if you are, just be prepared to change your lifestyle. Be willing to change your diet and get rid of some shit. And be willing to at least do enough exercising, all right, that it can make a difference in your life and, you know, longevity. The one thing I've said to people many times, and I said that recently with some people, and it hit hard both times, is just talking about they want to live. They want to be healthy. And, you know, you're that 40-some-year-old dad, and you have a daughter that's 9 or 12. Do you want to be around when she graduates high school? Do you want to be around when she gets married to walk her down the aisle? Or do you want stepdad to do that? And that's hard to listen to, but it smacks people right in the face, because that's what I do. It makes them think about that hard thing. And we want you here, man. We want you here to enjoy your life and enjoy your family. That's what it should be about. Be willing to do the hard. And it's okay to get help doing the hard. Leo, you have a great weekend, brother. All right?
I appreciate that very much, man. You as well.
I appreciate you, brother. Bunch of new clips going out. He's sending me all kinds of stuff. So we're going to be pushing out all kinds of content this weekend. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok, and I now have 12 followers on Substack. Man, everything you start at the beginning.
Oh,
that's my message.
Don's interview on Sunday as well.
Yes, Don's interview is on Sunday, the second part. I'm putting up some clips of the first parts. So go to YouTube, check out that interview with Don. Just look up the Outlaw Apostle podcast, Troy and Dawn, and it'll come up. That's the easiest way to do it. But one of us will probably post the link on the page of the first one, and then we'll add the second one when that comes out this Sunday too. All right. Have a great weekend, people. Love you much. This is the Outlaw Apostle Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Neff. I'm the fucking guy.
Whoa. Who knew I would make it this far? They hated, they never believed me. Yeah, I would never drop the ball. I know I make it look easy. Yeah, Mayweather with the defense. I don't care what a critic got to say. I got them picking up the pieces.